Okay, we're live. I will call meeting to order. The board wants to provide ample opportunity for public comment on matters that come before us. Your input is important. If you wish to address an item already on the agenda, we ask that you do so when that item comes up for discussion. If you have a comment on a matter not on the agenda, this is the time during our meeting for such comments. The board would like to remind everyone in attendance that to avoid violations of individual rights of privacy, a member of the public wishing to address the board during this time will not be allowed to make comments about any student, staff member, or member of the general public during this time. Does anyone wish to speak at this time? Very good. Special meeting tonight, hopefully kind of short and sweet to get through a couple necessary items before the end of June.
Yes.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, so one of the biggest things that we need to get done is we have to have a safe return to school and continuity of the service plan in place, and it needs to be on our website by Thursday the 24th. So that's why we have the special meeting now, so we can actually approve that plan as a board, excuse me, and get that posted so we're eligible for the ESSER funds. Looking at the timetable, the ESSER grants open July 1, so the grant's not even open yet, and has to be submitted by August 1. So that's kind of the timeline, but this is first and foremost. Basically, it was created using a template from the Montana Public Education Center, which is that MTPEC. Plan discusses a history of the previous closures and identifies meetings that addressed our evolving plans during the pandemic. Plan and the adoption of these policies are necessary for the application to receive ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds. The way this works, and correct me if I'm wrong for those that were on the committee, you know, we have this plan that was written, but we also have policies that support our plan. And so most of those 1,900, well, all of the 1,900 policies sunset June 30th of 2021. However, we will need to adopt some of these 1,900 plans, which I kind of put in your cheat sheet here, to support that document, is all they'll do, is the purpose behind them. But we did do away with many of them, and so it's basically just ones that are necessary for what we're trying to accomplish here. Now, you want me to go in right into this?
Yeah, I think we might as well.
Okay, so you will also see another item sitting in front of you, which is the long papers that has the highlighted. When we're talking about the ESSER funds, we've been talking about a lot of different things to do with them. It's $1.5 million is basically what we're looking at for our district alone. So we've been having a conversation with Shane and Rich from Holtang saying, are there things that we can use this money for on our facilities that might help us spend some of this money? And they said, you're talking to the right people. They're working with Billings, Great Falls, Missoula, several other districts are doing this exact same thing. So we had a meeting with them. I believe that was last Thursday. Thank you. With Dr. Scott, Jason, myself. And basically what we did was kind of looked at a rough draft of what I've got, which would include things like curriculum for 3 years, supplies for 3 years, possibly a permanent substitute, technology upgrades, different things that we can look at to make sure our technology is doing what it's supposed to do. So this is a good opportunity. Looking at this sheet, they came up with several projects. There are 2 pages here, and they divided it between the high school and basically the middle school. The high school would be looking at a domestic water heater and pumps.
That we know already that we have to replace very soon.
It's already leaking. We were going to have to replace it anyway. It's considered a safety item because hot water is necessary. And so looking at replacing that, new air conditioning condensers, that are on top of the buildings to get that fresh air in. They were damaged heavily by the hailstorm, and some of them are so old.
Well, yeah, they've been there for
They're aging
20,
out is what
20
they are.
years. They've served their useful purpose, their life. They've, like you said, they've aged out to where they are due for replacement. And so this is just an opportunity to do that, without putting a further burden on the general fund or the building reserve fund. So those are the items that we kind of went after, things that we knew that could relieve pressure from other parts of the budget that fell within the realm of what COVID ESSER was allowed to do.
Does insurance cover those? Were they damaged by hail or just because they're older?
No, because they're old. I think there's a little bit of both, but I don't think the hail damage is enough that they need replaced. I think there's some damage to them, but I think it's, the outer
That's our
parts.
attention to them, and they looked at them and said, these are getting old. You should probably replace
The
them.
plastic shroud
Wow.
part of it, their functional part was not damaged by the hail, but their lifespan.
Yes, and since they're putting a new roof on it anyway, that's the best time to put a new unit on so they can seal around the new unit instead of the old one and then try to replace it. So middle school is the next page. If you remember when we were doing our value engineering, we kind of said, well, there's a few things that we probably need to maybe take out of there. One was the classroom unit ventilators, which basically the heating system in the middle school, and the controls. We said, well, we're gonna have to deal with what we got. Well, they've aged out also. This is a good opportunity to go ahead and put that back on our list and use some different funding instead of using our bond monies. And so we looked at that, replacing the air handling units. And so the way they put these on these lists are by priority, top to bottom. And so basically what we did in that conversation is say, with the $1.5 million that we have, right now, generally speaking, we'd like to put about $750,000 towards these projects, and then the other $750,000 towards our in-school projects. Those are rough numbers right now. They could fluctuate 100,000 either way or something like that. We just need to see what these look like first.
Right, and these, to clarify, these are not quotes, they're not estimates, they're basically a budget placeholder. We had to give them a number to work with, the 750,000. So, they created, like I said, some budget placeholders just to get a ballpark idea. If we decide as a board to move forward with these, they have to go through the design phase and the engineering phase, and then a quote or a bid phase to get the actual numbers. So these,
And again, but as I understand though, they're close guesstimates. Rough, right.
With
Using
their
the-
experience,
with
these
experience,
guys know who to talk to get an idea of how much it's
Yeah.
costed recently.
Okay.
So I think I covered everything in those committee reports.
Yeah, many of these were items that we pulled out when we were readjusting and approving the contracts back in, what was it, January, I think, or early February, I think it was, March. That some of these items were pulled and so we
the
were,
controls was the big one.
Yeah.
We had on there to upgrade the controls in the middle school, but none of the actual mechanical parts. So at that point, it didn't make a lot of sense to spend a whole lot of money on just the controls. But now, if looking at this, we can do the mechanical units themselves and the controls and bring the whole middle school, up to the same level as what we're doing, or close to what we're doing in the new elementary.
okay. All right, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions on the ESSER or the continuity of service plan? If not, we will take a motion, please. And don't read the one that's on Eric's sheet.
Don't read this one.
Don't read that one.
I was in a hurry today. I apologize. I'm trying to get more information out. So, yeah.
Read the top line, maybe.
Okay, well, I move to approve the safe return to school and continuity of service plan.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the safe return to school and continuity of service plan. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Within that, we need to look at a few of these policies. So adopt policy 3413, student immunization.
The only difference is we have a 3413 that basically supports the feds saying that we have to have students immunized before they come to school. This new, I guess this addition to the current policy is the last paragraph. And all it states is that the COVID vaccine is not one of the vaccinations that is required for students to attend school. And so it's just a disclaimer saying, yes, they have to be vaccinated. However, COVID-19 vaccination is not considered one of those mandatory vaccines. So it's just clarifying that. So I would ask that we approve the MTSBA model policy 3413 student immunization as presented for the first reading, since we are changing it.
Okay. Well, I so move.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve MTSBA model policy 3413, student immunization as presented for first reading. Any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Approve the extension of policies 1900, 1905, 1906, 1906P, and 1907.
Could I just have a second, just to clarify, at the end of that, just so that we're all on the same page, at the end of 3413, the very last sentence, just to be aware of for all of us that the statement, and this is fine, students enrolled in dual credit courses in accordance with district policies may be subject to district or distinct immunization requirements of the applicable post-secondary institution. So just to bring that to our attention, I think that's important as well.
Yes, we do dual credit with the Helena College. If they had different requirements, then those students would have to follow those.
And now all I want to do was clarify, bring that to our attention, that's all.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we are still under these policies, 1900, 1905, 1906, 1906P, and 1907. They do sunset on June 30th, basically a week from tomorrow. But basically what these policies do is they support our plan that we just approved, the Safe Return to School and Continuity of Service Plan. And they are referenced in that plan, so I kind of did a cheat sheet. Again, I did it quickly, so I don't know how much you want me to cover, but the plans were in your packet for you to look over. So, basically 1900 just allows the board to establish policies to address issues concerning the safety of students, staff, and community, especially in this COVID era. 1905 just says that with the safety concerns, we're gonna, if students are sick, we're gonna send them home, just like we did before any of this. Still look at physical distancing, again, not to the extent that we did before, but if we can strategically spread kids out in a classroom, in a lunchroom, and like I said, strategically, without making them feel alienated and separated from each other, just kind of a course of action. We try to do those types of things, but we're not going to do separate recesses. We're going to get back to a normal lunch schedule as much as we can and do those types of things. So we did already do the optional face coverings, so anybody is still allowed to wear face coverings without any retribution. We'll still be cleaning and disinfecting. Student arrival, I know we had staggered schedules. We will not do that because we'll be going straight to the playground, so-called playground, just like we were. Temperature screening, which again was only if we think a child may not feel well. Washing hands, watching out for individuals that may have pre-existing conditions. We'll still be careful with food preparation, just not to the extent that we have been. Transportation services, we will continue. That's kind of an odd one right now. I don't know if you've been reading some of that stuff, but right now, public transportation is requiring masks and face covering. The president said that does not include school transportation. However, when they wrote the new rules, they did not put that in there. And so as the law is written, masks are required right now on school buses. We're hoping they get that figured out.
There's a lot of work and
Before
letters
school
being written, so
Yeah.
hopefully they get some clarity on that before
Yes.
we go back to school.
So we are hoping they get rid of that because that, of course, is one of our biggest bones of contention with some of our transportation folks. So something we're looking at. So we will continue just to be a safe school, which we should always be a safe school anyway. But again, we're not going to do things to the degree that, of course, we've done in the past. The goal this year, when we come back to school, is to have it be as normal as possible, just like it was any other year. So nobody notices any different from the past prior to COVID. It's time to get things back to normal and get people and our students back to normal and on a routine. Policy 1906, this basically says we're going to follow OPI and the aggregate hours, and we'll meet the necessary aggregate hours that are required. 1906P talks about just student instruction resources and best practices. Again, different ways to meet aggregate hours. And then this time we will go with the bricks and mortar educational setting. And then 1907 is school district declaration of emergency. And this just gives the board autonomy to declare an emergency if they so choose. Whether there's anybody else declares an emergency, we actually have the independence to be able to do that on our own. We don't have to wait for somebody else to declare an emergency if we see fit.
And we need to maintain all of these 1900 policies, not just for this coming year, but throughout the ESSER grant timeframe.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I talked to Todd on this just to say, what do you think this motion should look like? And he actually suggested we put a sunset of June 30th, 2024, because that'll be the end date of the ESSER funds. Because at any time, if we need to change them, then the board has that discretion to do something.
Well, and, like say, that the ESSER grant period goes to the end of the 2024 school year. These policies, we've already adopted, so it's not, we're not changing substantively anything in the policy. All we're doing is extending the sunset of these policies in order to be able to facilitate and access the ESSER funds from June 30th, 2021 to June 30th, 2024.
Right.
If we don't have the continuity plan posted, we don't have the policies extended with the same duration as the grant period, we are not able to access the grant funds.
Right. That's what I assumed.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure of that, but that's what I assumed.
Yeah. And so this doesn't change anything other than, the way I honestly kind of look at it is that it's kind of like a check the box kind of requirement from the federal government. It says, look, ARPA has released $1.9 trillion into the economy. What, 350 billion or something like that went to education administered through Department of Ed. Our particular districts, respect a portion of that is potentially 1.5 million, assuming we write those grants and qualify for the grant. And so if we don't have these things and, whether OPI goes out and checks individual district websites to ensure that this is there, or if they read it or whatever, who knows? But I having dealt with enough kind of federal, kind of an umbrella of things that fall under federal government guidelines, this is very much, this is very similar to those circumstances where they say, you need to have something out there for, for them to, I guess, maybe to feel good that there's a bit of a check and a balance, or that there's some sort of a threshold for performance. And then it's just, do they have it? Yes, no, and those kinds of things. So, given the fact that, our districts, the fiscal impact to the district, I mean, is pretty substantial. And also given the fact that we have, with cost overruns and things like that, with, all the different products in our elementary school project, this actually dovetails pretty nicely into it. And so, yeah,
the timing is handy.
yeah, and so that's, there are a lot of moving parts, and I think, like some of the other things that we've had with, the district with funding of things, this is actually turning out to be kind of a rosy side of things instead of, potentially bad, or complicating it, so.
Okay, well, I move to extend policies 1900, 1905, 1906, 1906P, and 1907 until June 30, 2024.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to extend policies 1900, 1905, 1906, 1906P, and 1907 until June 30th of 2024. Any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. And on a side note to that, we visited with our auditor the other day just on our financial statement audit. He said with the amount of money and he said, it's very likely that we will receive a federal audit because of the ESSER. So these are all very important things to make sure that we have in place, once those monies are distributed. Because it is very likely that they will, and it will probably be part of that same process, but it was
Okay.
good to confirm that he said they are being done and they are happening, so you need to be prepared for them.
Okay.
Is there anything else? I guess I have one other thing to add, being this is probably our last
Oh, yes.
official meeting. I would just like to, extend a great deal of gratitude to Mr. Wilkerson and the privilege that it has been to work with you the last 3 years, and I guess be a part of the school system even beyond that. But can't say thanks enough for, what you've done for our district and the guidance and the leadership that you have been to our district. I personally, I think everyone else probably will add in, but I appreciate all that you have done and wish you the best of luck in the future.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
I agree. Thank you very much and good luck.
You bet. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure working with you.
Pleasure's been all mine most of the time. No, working with you guys has always been good, but it's a new chapter.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Appreciate all you've done to help ease the transition, from yourself to Ms. Hedlund. And I think that we're off on a good start and that we'll continue. So
Yep, and
appreciate
we're gonna
that.
spend the first 3 days of next week, as long as it takes to get to her where she's comfortable, that Thursday she walks in and it's hers. So,
Thursday, that's amazing.
yeah, and that's something.
Yeah, it's something, isn't it? Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, however many months ago when I made that decision, I thought, that'll never get here. But
Well, I got here
it went a lot quicker
fast.
than I thought.
Yeah, it did.
Very good. If there's nothing else, the meeting is adjourned.
All right, thank you. All right.
What are you doing Thursday?